Well, hey guys, it's Dr. Drake 63, David Drake. Appreciate you joining me here today on Gun News and Reviews. About a year ago, a little bit less than a year ago, I purchased a new to me, made in 1998 SIG 556 ER. This came with what are called fish gill style handguards, big, kind of bulky plastic handguards, and they also had an adjustable buttstock that matched them. A U.S. made version, or a version I should say, made for the U.S. Of the Swiss 550 or 551 series of rifles. The SG 550 was developed specifically to fire the 5.56 NATO round, and has been in service since the early 1990s and still in service today with both Swiss and some other national forces. Great rifle. At the time I told you I was thrilled to get it, really loved the inner workings of it, especially the fact it was a side charging piston operated 5.56, and really loved it, although there were some things that I learned not to like about it, and most of those things were both from the standpoint of aesthetically and ergonomically, and most specifically, didn't like the sights. Here you can see this rear flip up, what's called a popsicle style sight. Just very, very flimsy and not very good. Here's the front sight, which was also a flip up sight. Not very good, in my opinion. Didn't like the handguards, and wanted to do some things to kind of switch that up. So I made some changes, and here's what we're looking at now. And this is the 2021 version of the exact same rifle, and as you can see, it's the same action, which is dependable as all get out. All that stuff is the same, but we did switch out the buttstock and something that looks better with this handguard, which is a Swiss handguard. And this was not easy to come by, guys. I had to do a lot of looking to find somebody's last set in stock. And it didn't come cheap, but it's a very slim profile, and I really like it. The rifle, as I'd mentioned in the prior video, was a little bit on the bulky and heavy side, so the changes I've made have done a lot to kind of slim that down a little bit. I wouldn't say I trimmed a bunch of weight, maybe a little bit, maybe about a pound altogether, 3/4 of a pound. But most importantly, the sighting system is significantly better than those backup, what's called popsicle sight, rear sight, and flip-up sights. So I want to talk a minute about this, what's basically a one-piece diopter set. And you can get, if you can find them, the type that will mount on a Picatinny rail. But if you look at this, this is actually a part of this rail. So this is a piece that all comes together, and it's a set that came along with the proper height front hooded sight. And this is from a company called MFI. They're out of California, and the gentleman who owns that company's name is Michael Frost, and Michael was extremely helpful in answering my questions. And before I went this route, I did a lot of investigation of what makes the most sense to best emulate the SIG Swiss versions of this rifle, the one that this is modeled after. And I would have to say that that this nails it. And you're going to see when we do some shooting that this system is very accurate for what it is, open sight shooting, and the adjustments work pretty well. And as Mike explains, you know, some of the nuances of the Swiss model, like for example, this isn't like lockdown tight. It feels like it could be kind of loose, but it's not going anywhere. It's Swiss, which means it has some delicacy in the intricate workings with springs and detents and things like that. And for that reason, you know, if I had to bang something around and mistreat it and things like that, I definitely would prefer the AR style rear sights, the carry handles that you saw that used to be real popular before everybody decided the only way to shoot was with magnified or electronic optics. But this is an extremely well made piece of kit here for this rifle, And MFI, again, is the name of the company. I'll put links in the description. And if you're somebody that has one of these rifles, this is a definite upgrade, certainly over that popsicle stick. You can still, of course, put an optic on there. But just extremely well made all the way around. And it was a good choice. They're not cheap, guys, but there's reasons for that. If you want cheap, you can get cheap. So if you take a look at this, this is really cool, this diopter system. This is 100, which is an open style setting right there that you can see. So if you turn it to the right, it has an indexing detent and it tabs, and that particular elevation gives you 200. You turn it to the right again, and you've got 300. It's a very small picture that lines up with that front sight. And here's a bigger one, which will give you 3 or 4. And what does that mean? You got the 3 or the 4? Well, if you line your target up with the bottom of this larger hole here, you will effectively be at the 400-yard range, where this one is a smaller hole, and that lined up with your front sight will give you 300. And typically for me, that's going to be a 50-yard zero for 300. But as you can see, this screw right here, adjustment is for your elevation. And this right here is what adjusts your windage. So if you were to ask me which would be a more dependable platform, just overall in terms of how well it could run, how hard you could run it, how well it could do without maintenance and so forth, which would be a better platform to go to the field with, so to speak, or just to shoot the heck out of? Would it be this Colt, which is, you know, the original AR, or would it be the SIG? The answer to that would have to be, it would be the SIG. It just has a design and a build which is more durable and can handle a lot more firing without needing to be maintained. However, if you were to ask me from a practical standpoint, forget about the design in a minute and just say, hey, knowing that every rifle needs to be maintained, and every rifle sooner or later is going to have a spring, a detent, something that you need to replace, all of a sudden this isn't your best choice. And the reasons for that are real simple. SIG USA doesn't support this. They said forget it. They gave this series a shot. It did not sell like they thought they would, despite several version changes in the US, and they abandoned it. So SIG now will make things that are in the M4 mil-spec platform, and they do make fine versions in that respect, and you can get support for that anywhere. And that's one thing too, that if just as a side note, if you wonder why the Army stuck with some variant of the original M16 and now the M4 and so forth for all these years, you can go to any parts depot, any National Guard armory, anywhere, and you could grab a bolt from any number of the M16 or M4 variants and throw it in a rifle, and it's going to work. And that's true with so many of those parts. So there's a reason that we've stuck with that, and it isn't even as much as, is it the best rifle? Is it the one that we can maintain and without a great expenditure continue to run for what it does? Food for thought there. If you were to ask me which would be more accurate platform, the SIG 556 with these diopter sights, or this AR platform, especially with a longer barrel at 20 inches, I would tell you that it would be this Colt all day long. This is an extremely accurate rifle, and if you watch my shooting video on the SP2, you're seeing that I'm having no problem hitting paper out at 350 with these open sights. Now, one of the cool things too to note on this is in the low mount position, this red dot, which in this case is also Sig Sauer, it's a Romeo 5, but an aim point or many of the others of these size would also work. It co-witnesses perfectly with the front and the back sight. It's not how I typically would shoot this rifle, but I think it would be, you know, if I knew I was going to need it for a quick acquisition type of scenario, that's the way you'd want to roll. Now, this is the sighting system right out of the box. I haven't tinkered with it. I haven't made adjustments or anything. And I was very impressed, as you're going to see in a second, with the results that we were getting at 50 yards. And, you know, open sight, iron sight shooting, it is what it is, right? You either practice it or you don't. So these are my 50-yard shots. And you saw how I was shooting, unsupported. And not bad. Not bad at all. I have to say I don't really see a need to make any adjustments or anything like that. I think we just need to come out to a little bit longer range, see what we can do at 100. But in terms of a military style weapon, kind of accuracy that you would expect and require, I'd say it's doing pretty good. So I decided to jump over to the 200-meter range and set it on 200 meters on the diopter, and thought we'd see what kind of fine-tuning we might need to make. 200 meters, and I'm using the 200-meter setting, and I'm seeing that I'm low and left. Suspected left a little bit. Didn't suspect low, but that could have been the sight picture I was using. So I have got my rear sight on the bottom of that black circle from 200 meters as best I can. So I need to get that up a little bit. Now, one of the changes into this series of shots from the prior is I'm now using Soleil and below 5.56 ammo, which is 55 grain, instead of the Winchester 55 grain. And we are going to notice that ammo does not group as nicely as the Winchester. So you can see my adjustment worked. Now what I'm not showing you is I made an adjustment the wrong way. Walked down here, figured out I wasn't having any success, but went back to where I was and then went the other way. And I like that. I like that a lot. I will take those results. Not that I couldn't do better and need to be picky about ammo and things, but that's what we were hoping to do, was get on that black. So it took some looking, it took some digging, but I was able to find what I needed to turn this rifle into what it is right now, which is pretty much exactly what I want. Like I said, with the AR platform, it's so much easier to find stuff. There's so many people making it and so forth. So I would suggest to anyone who's interested in picking up one of these, number one, you need to know they don't make them anymore. So you're looking at dropping some big bucks for something comparable, like an FN Scar or a CZ Bren or a Galil Ace, as we mentioned. But these are available, and if you spend some time looking on some of the usual spots where people will sell their used firearms, you'll be able to find something like this. You might even find one of the versions that has the folding stock. I know that's a big deal for some guys, but you can find these, and you can find parts, but be prepared to know that it's not going to be as easy as just driving down to your local gun store and picking up what you need. You're going to have to spend a lot of time looking. So anyway, great rifles. This is Swiss made, so go figure. There's a lot of really good manufacturers out there besides us here in America, and of course we do a good job with stuff as well. But anyway, I want to thank you for watching. As always, this is DR Drake 63 saying shoot straight. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on down the road, guys.